It's 1973 and Arsenal are looking for a boost after losing an FA Cup semi-final the previous week. Their biggest rivals, not necessarily the ideal opponents. Here's Brian Moore.
So Arsenal get us away, defending the goal to our left. Red shirts and white sleeves. Spurs, of course, in their usual white shirts. And Knowles to Ralph Coates. Coates, who scored a blistering goal in this corresponding match last season. The Spurs won 2-0, and there's a good ball to Martin Peters. Peters now with another chance. Rice was coming back quickly, and now with ball. Arsenal with so much to do to stamp out the memories of the last two games, which they've both lost, here against Derby and against Sunderland in the Cup. Now playing their last home game of the season, with 4 to come away now after this one at Everton, Southampton, West Ham and Leeds in their quest for the championship. Peters with the throw for Tottenham. And even if there was nothing hanging on this match, it would still be a match that both sides would put in 110% to try and win. Tremendous local rivalry in North London. McNabb, the Arsenal skipper, with a throw. Kinnear. And another Arsenal throw. Been next to no rain in London for quite some time. The pitch looks as though it must have been heavily watered, which will damp it down and make the ball control that much easier. There's a good ball now for Peter Storey. Armstrong going hard, but Philip Beale getting the foot to it. Pratt, a poor clearance, straight to Alan Ball. McNabb. And Storey, who'd stayed up, with another left foot cross, and this is a better looking one as Radford goes in, fails to connect. Gilzean, but it's gone this time for Kennedy. Rice, a high up and under for Radford, and the footballer of the year, Pat Jennings, gathering it well. Simpson and Blockley rather getting in each other's way there, but Blockley with a clear header that time and finding ball. Chivers, Gilzean, and now Peters between the two of them, and a shot that is over the top, giving the goal kick for Arsenal, but a good quick break there from Martin Peters, with play before it from Chivers and Gilzean that opened up the way. But Bob Wilson, as yet not a save to make, with the goal kick for Arsenal. Bradford's header, and Kinnear's. Perryman more forward. Gilzean, and it'll fall loose for Armstrong. Nice ball there for Ball. Rice going down the right. That's Pat Rice, number 2. Armstrong. Good cross again towards Ray Kennedy. England again up above them all. Storey, Gilzean, and the touch that finds John Pratt. Well, he was touch and go whether Chivers was offside, but the linesman kept his flag down, and Chivers, and well saved by Wilson at the second goal. Arsenal looking inquiringly at the linesman, and he must have adjudged that Chivers was fractionally onside. But maybe there was a push on the Arsenal defender, and that's why the free kick was given. But nonetheless, it was good work by Bob Wilson. Kennedy's header. Radford. Ball still in play. Beale still there, so little space, and the ball still in play. And a goal kick. Actually, a very interesting piece of lining on the other side by the linesman, having given that, and he ran right away from that point to make sure that there should be no dispute from the Arsenal players. Really didn't want to get involved, and a good piece of lining. Ray Evans, the sub on the right. Johnny Wallace, the trainer for Tottenham. Armstrong now to Rice. And again the sight of Storey taking up a good position on that left-hand side of the field, and the linesman is flagging as ball goes in, and a marvellous tip over by Pat Jennings, but the linesman was flagging on the far side as he went in, but Jennings was not to know that, and that really was the sort of save that the football writers have voted for, making this man not only the top goalkeeper in the country, but the top footballer. Now it's Armstrong. Oh, not a good one. And Arsenal still suffering a little bit, a hangover from the semi-final last week. At the moment, still unable really to put their game together. And now they've conceded a free kick for Kelly's assault on Peters. Knowles towards Chivers, touched off again for Peters, but caught him on the knee. Pratt. Ball. Nice ball there from Alan Ball to Peter Story, and on this time for John Radford, but Mike England again there. And this time Radford's got the better of him, and Story again right in there. And now Armstrong picking up the loose one. It's much more like it by Arsenal, but England and Kinnear between them rather haphazardly getting it away. McNabb. Kinnear. Pratt right in there. Beale helping it on its way. Simpson. Ball. McNabb. And now Armstrong. McNabb again right up there. And Story too. Two defenders right up in there amongst the attackers, and Mike England had to struggle to get that away. And fortunately for Spurs, it was Peters on the edge of the area. That's the ball for Gilzean, and Coates is unmarked down the left. Chivers and Gilzean are up. And Coates has done well, Gilzean just touching it. Chivers back for Peters. And Story putting it away to give Spurs the throw. Lower trajectory this time. Peters hoping to backheel it on. Spurs thought the Story may have touched that with his hand, but the referee said no. England bringing down Radford. Ron Challis, the referee, going to Mike England, and he was a long way from the play, Ron Challis, because the ball had been switched very quickly forward, and quite rightly, what he couldn't see properly, he hasn't done anything about cautioning Mike England. I'm sure he was right. Kennedy. Armstrong. Ball. Story looking for that on the right foot and touched it through this time for Radford. Tottenham's throw. Perryman. Gilzean watched by Blockley, and he turned and slipped, but in turning he'd got Blockley going a little, and still Gilzean in possession. Now with Marty Peters, beautifully killed by him, and the 1-2 with Chivers didn't quite come off. And Simpson storming away for Arsenal. Perryman intercepting, and Knowles clearing to Ralph Coates. Still with Coates. Looking around for Knowles. Now Knowles. Chivers trying to come away from Simpson, and Simpson is marking Chivers so very closely, and it's with Coates again. That's not a bad cross towards Gilzean on the far side. Knocked down for Perryman, and really Perryman a little annoyed with himself, number 8, with that, because that was beautifully nodded down for him by the great Gilzean, and Perryman really didn't quite make as much of that as he might have done. Chivers. Perryman, for once in his life, a little too slow there. Robbed by Alan Ball. There's a good pass from Rice now to Armstrong. Chivers. That looked very much like shoulder to shoulder to me, but Ron Challis was right there and has given Arsenal the free kick. So Chivers is penalised, not standing yet 10 yards off the ball. Kelly wants to take the Free kick towards the far post, and a very good one, and a good one-handed catch by Pat Jennings, those massive hands of his. Ball beaten by Perryman. It's with Gilzine. Through the legs of Alan Ball. And a good pass there, this time for Knowles. Perryman. Gilzine trying a little back heeler. As the whistle goes for half-time, in the director's box, Sir Alf Ramsey, I wonder what he made of the first half. Certainly without goals, much of it due to Pat Jennings with one tremendous save halfway through the half, with Bob Wilson, his opposite number, with very little indeed to do. And so we come to a half-time score, which indeed adds more urgency to Arsenal than it does to Spurs, because they desperately need to win. In half-time at Highbury, and it reads Arsenal 0, Spurs 0, and we'll be back in a couple. So Pat Jennings, having got a very warm reception from the North Bank, the Arsenal supporters, recognising the contribution he's made, not only to football, but to the achievements of the enemy up at White Hart Lane. We now get away at the start of the second half, and it's going to be Spurs this time kicking off. Knowles, high again towards Chivers, Blockley ducking underneath it. Knowles. Blockley, who's looked so much more assured this afternoon again, calmly and comfortably back, even a smile back on his face. Now it's with Kelly, and Kennedy caught well offside. A dart forward by Mike England, keeping the Arsenal number 10 in an offside position. So it'll be Mike England with the free kick for Tottenham. Chivers to Coates. Pratt. A good deep cross again towards Gilzine, and Wilson really had to come all the way to commit himself for that one. Ball. Armstrong. Ball. Rice now to Armstrong. Kennedy. Radford. Armstrong. Got Story now at the near post. The most forward player of all the Arsenal men is Story. Knowles getting himself out of trouble, running into trouble again, and overhead! Oh, and onto the top there from Pat Rice and behind. That was very nearly a goal out of the blue for Arsenal from Pat Rice. Perryman. Gilzine, a glancing header, and a glancing header too by Chivers. Pratt right up there. Chivers to Peters, and now for Chivers, and a great chance! And that is it! That is it by Martin Chivers. For Tottenham. Well, Spurs are delighted, remembering they were beaten at White Hart Lane by Arsenal. A nice 1-2, put Chivers completely in the clear. And from that sort of position, Chivers makes no mistakes. 1-0 to Spurs, with 13 minutes of the second half gone. And now the importance of the afternoon really bearing down on Arsenal. A defeat here virtually ruins their championship chances, with those 4 away games still to come and no more at home. But here's Armstrong, and here's Story, and he scored! Within a minute he scored! 1-1. Well, that was a tremendous comeback there by Arsenal. And the pass there left Story completely in the clear. Jennings came out and he put it under Jennings' body. And we've got 2 goals in a minute, 1-1. And it's incredible. Story, who's taken up some tremendous attacking positions this afternoon. It's incredible just how often this season Arsenal have come back on the rebound so quickly. And they've done it again, 1-1. Peters, Rice, and for the first time at Highbury, it really sounds like a Spurs-Arsenal game. Kennedy away this time, but the whistle had gone for the foul on Rice, and Arsenal get a free kick. Armstrong. And that time it's Perryman diving away, but miscuing, so it's gone to Armstrong again, onto the left foot, Blockley right in there, Mike England away, but only as far as Rice, and touched behind, I think by Martin Peters, but for the corner. So now Spurs, a bit of strain showing on their faces, they're the side under pressure, because Arsenal bouncing back, 1-1, carrying the fight again to Tottenham. Armstrong with the corner, low and dangerous, and Blockley. And in these sort of conditions, there's one man who'd love even more to be out in the middle of it. Frank McClintock. Armstrong now for Arsenal. That's a good cross there by him. And again, Pat Jennings just got in there with one hand as 2 players fall in a heap at the post. Radford and England crack themselves against each other and against the post. But another one of those characteristic one-handed saves come catches by Pat Jennings. And Arsenal want to bring on their substitute, Charlie George. On my watch, something like 8 minutes left, and the referee's got to go right across there to check the studs. And Eddie Kelly is going off. So Kelly goes off, a midfield man, and it really is the sign that it's a committed gamble now. They've got to throw men forward. George is on. Story had a tremendous game, Peter Story. Chivers played on nicely there for Martin Peters. Coates is in the middle, and Coates will come for this. That was a push surely by Rice. Apparently it wasn't, says the referee, and he was better placed. But certainly Coates went diving to the ground. Good header there by Kennedy, and Radford is away now. Shadowed by Beale. Beautiful play by Radford. Oh, and a fine save by Jennings. Hit straight at him, and Jennings gathered it and caught it, but some beautiful play by Arsenal, by Kennedy and then by Radford. And Coates is offside. Gilzean really giving Pratt a talking to for playing that ball for Coates when it was pretty obvious, says Gilzean, that Ralph was offside. A wise old head. Now Radford. Up and into the back line. Mike England applauding the referee's decision. Gives Arsenal another free kick. And they really are beginning to pile the pressure now on Tottenham. And Spurs want to bring on their substitutes, Ray Evans. But Armstrong is taking the free kick, and Jennings once more. So Evans wants to come on. Rice, ball, Charlie George, played nicely there by George for Armstrong. Looks like we might get quite a final flourish to this game as Armstrong turns it in once more, and Radford was right in there, Story is right up there, Coates, oh, and that was almost an own goal by Mike England. But Jennings changed direction dramatically, and there was some pushing there as well. still Ray Evans waits to come on, and Ralphie's saying it's obviously Coates who's coming off. So Coates, I think, is the man who's coming off. Getting a warm round of applause from the Highbury crowd. So whereas Arsenal have taken a midfield player off and put an attacker on, Spurs have taken a midfield player off and put a defender on. Ray Evans. In, harassed by Story. The throw. Perryman, short one to Peters. Good play by Peters. But now Story. Radford, Rice down the right, Charlie George, John Radford, good play there by Arsenal, ball, and he almost found a way through for Charlie George, but England was blocking it. Rice for Blockley, and now for Ball. Oh, good play again by Alan Ball and by Arsenal as Armstrong takes it up once more for them. Kennedy and George are in the middle. Armstrong again. That's a much better cross. Kennedy right in there. Radford right in there. And Peters hooking it so far back over his own head that I thought for a moment he was going to hook it into his own goal. But it's a corner for Arsenal. Just over 2 minutes to go. Blockley right up there, the two number 5s marking each other closely as Armstrong takes yet another corner for Arsenal, and again it's not a good one. And Pratt now scuttling away for Tottenham. Arsenal's throw. Well, that may have been a free kick. It was certainly very quickly taken, with the ball moving as well. Kennedy. He's played about a minute and a half of injury time now. Radford. And now Rice. This has got to be the last throw for Arsenal now, and Story once more leading the charge for them. A nice backheader by him. But Ball couldn't quite get there. So Bertie Mead biting his lips there and a little anxious, a little disappointed, I would think, that it looks 1 point instead of 2. Wilson really hurtling out there to keep the ball in play, to keep a fleeting hope going for Arsenal. And that is it. It's all over, and it's 1 point instead of 2 for Arsenal. And that could well mean the death knell of their championship hopes. Martin Chivers having put Spurs ahead in the second half, and then within a minute, Peter Story, just as he did at White Hart Lane, scored for Arsenal to make it 1-1.
The point wasn't good enough for Arsenal, who'd finished runners-up to Liverpool in the old First Division. Spurs would be 8th.